All right, so thank you for being here. I know you just got out of the meeting, so I'm not gonna try and be not as boring as a meeting. Uh, but firstly, maybe just explain who you are and what you do and what the purpose is of being here.
Yeah, no, my name is Lev. I'm the CEO of the Elcro Digital Services Group. Um, we're a hosting company, been around for a little over a year now. And here because you invited me to talk a bit more about what I do and some of our products.
Yeah. Most importantly, from my side, is viewers who are watching the main channel know you from the this video is brought to you by Lagless Bit, because you do sponsor me, which I am thankful for. But we should
Yes.
clarify that this is not sponsored, and I am free to say whatever the fuck I want.
Yes, you are.
Awesome.
Uh,
So for me, this talk is twofold because I want to show that Lagless isn't just another soulless corp, and two, that my journalistic abilities are not being hampered by getting money from a company like Lagless. But maybe first explain what is Lagless.gg and what sets it apart from hosts like we have so many in the space.
Yeah, and kind of, the baseline of everything is that we are a game server provider. We are out to make player-owned servers an easier thing. Um, but we are in quite a saturated space. So we're trying to kind of slowly break the mold, so to say, in the hosting space, with, a thing that I see a lot nowadays is companies like to split everything in to tiers. With their budget services for a certain dollar amount, they have their premium services, et cetera, et cetera. I don't like that personally, and it's kind of my mission and my team's mission to help eliminate that slowly, but still not compromise on the product itself. So that's kind of what lagless.gg is for. We're kind of standardizing what kind of servers you get,
Yeah.
and we're just putting it all under one flat pricing, so you're not getting screwed as a consumer.
Yeah, that's that's basically it. It irks me to no end that there are people who have the plans. I get why, because you have older hardware that isn't paid off in full, and you want to just keep some revenue coming in. But it almost feels like if you're buying a budget plan, you're buying secondhand citizenship, which I don't like at all. Which is why also for the testing host stuff, I only do budget stuff if they tier it up, because I believe that your lowest performing chink in your chain is as strong as the rest of the chain. You know, like the old adage
Yeah,
goes.
absolutely.
You mentioned Elk. I can't pronounce it for the life of me. Elk.
Elcro Digital.
Elcro Digital and the group.
Yes.
Maybe explain the connection between Elcro
Yeah.
Digital, and Legless.
So we were never originally a game host. That came along a little later down the line. We initially started because we wanted to build up a reliable infrastructure that other enterprise scale companies could use other hosts, to kind of utilize a proper network with good DDoS protection brought in, kind of all that covered with good hardware, et cetera, et cetera. But we had a lot of conversations internally as we kept growing on that front that there's still something missing in the game server space, and because of our unique position where Elcro Digital is kind of the parent company of Lagless, we had the resources at our fingertips already to launch something pretty quick. Not saying that we launched it just like overnight. There's a lot that went into it, but it was definitely easier for us, with Elcro kind of having the backbone of everything, because we already had all the systems in place. It was just a matter of sourcing the hardware, assembling it, testing it, getting it into a data center, and configuring what we needed to do.
Yeah, because you messaged me that there are a lot of new nodes coming in.
Hmm.
Because Lagless also reached 200 members on Discord, which again, congratulations for.
Thank you.
Because you didn't start Lagless all that long ago, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think we launched like late February, so it's very new still.
Yes.
Still some small growing pains as we kind of iron out bugs and move into the scaling with the growth that we're seeing.
Yeah, because again, like many hosts, you're using Pterodactyl. It works fine. It works fine-ish. I have my gripes with PHP, but that's all up to you, man.
Yeah, I do have a little bit we can kind of talk about. So, a lot of hosts that they'll try to fork a version of Pterodactyl and kind of rebuild it
Mm-hmm.
using what's already in place. We're sort of doing that, and I say that kind of lightly. We're not rebuilding the panel. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we do have a talented team that's always coming up with new features that might not be publicly available on certain plugin sites and things like that, but things that we as gamers ourselves think would be easier for the player to manage their services.
Yeah.
And that's all kind of things that we don't have a structured roadmap for it necessarily. We're kind of we get feedback from the community as they purchase from us, and they tell us what they think they would like to see, and then we take it to the drawing board. Like, can we make this happen? What do we need to do to make this happen? And this is a kind of an evolving discussion, and maybe at some point it'll turn into its own custom panel. I don't think it will.
Okay.
Pterodactyl does have a good base, and it's very reliable in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Well, whenever it doesn't have its mandated monthly critical issue, uh,
Well, yeah.
it's PHP. What are you gonna do? Um, no, but I mean, that's also why I like Legless at the moment. And again, I'm not being told to say this, but like I feel like you're the only ones listening because no hate towards GG servers. They were always nice to me. They believed in me when I only had like 300 subs, whatever. Uh, but some of the feedback I did give, they would not always listen to, or they would take haphazardly. When I give feedback, which I only had to do once or twice, it's been taken more seriously, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I see it in the Discord as well. Whenever somebody, like literally, I think it was 5 minutes ago or something, someone said, "Hey, this mobile, it's a bit fucky on the mobile," and then
Yeah.
Blasmo was like, "I'll fix that. No
Yep.
worries."
Yeah, he's always on top of it. We really like to pay attention to what everyone thinks, and you know, it's it's a hand in hand joint effort between us as a business and the consumers that use our products. I mean, they're the ones that benefit from it. So we want to make sure that they're heard.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I don't see a point in doing this if I'm not trying to cater to what people need.
yeah, because you mentioned you were in the unique position of already having infrastructure. It's not like you
Yeah.
guys don't know what you're doing. You obviously do know. You also own your own hardware, right?
Yes, correct.
I can put up the pictures of the all the wrecks that you're assembling on the screen right now, and make a lot of
Yeah.
people jealous. With the water cooled ones as well, which is also
Oh yeah.
very cool. I told you to advertise that because nerds are gonna
Yeah.
gas them.
Water
Um.
cooling is the way to go. It
Oh yeah.
increases longevity a lot.
I thought it would be a maintenance hard nightmare if you water cooled it.
Not necessarily. I mean, Dynatron is kind of the player that everyone really uses, and some data centers only accept that brand of water cooling because they know it to be reliable. But it's really easy to use. It goes on. Some of them come in weird shapes, and you kind of do a little weird wizardry in the
Yeah.
server to get it to fit. But in terms of maintenance, I mean, they do what they're supposed to do. They keep
Yeah.
the CPUs cooler than your average passive or air cooler do, and that increases the life of the server as a whole, which is awesome for us because we don't have to replace things as often.
Does it still sound like a jet taking off?
It's still loud, yes.
Okay,
It's
yes.
not as loud as just normal fans could be. Super micro fans do have a track record for being quite, high on the decibel scale, but the liquid coolers aren't too bad.
Because I got like a 36er right there, like a 1U. Holy shit! If I turn this on, I can start screaming, and my neighbor won't complain. If I turn that on, she will be like, "What the fuck's this whirlwind?"
hmm Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's insane. Jesus Christ! Put some oil on that bit. Uh, but maybe talk about your personal journey in hosting, right? Because you mentioned you started with Eltro, and then now you're doing Lagless. What made you form Lagless? Because that's not something that happens overnight, or is not a thought that just
Yeah,
pops in your head, I suppose.
yeah, no, absolutely. Walker was never my first project. I've been doing this on and off, I'd say, for the past 11 years. Uh, I started my own host 11 years ago, actually. When I was like 13 or 14 years old. I was like, I got some
Yeah.
Christmas money. I gotta
Yeah,
try
yeah.
it. I did, and it was all right. I mean, obviously, for a 13, 14-year-old, it wasn't the best thing ever. We did just kind of find somewhere to rent and kind of put multi-craft on it, if you remember that
Oh
whole
my god, yes.
whole thing. That's how old that was. Um, but I never, you know, I was young. My attention span was the size of a goldfish, so moved on to some other things pretty quickly. But I never really left the industry. I did spend some times at some of the bigger name brands. I spent some time at Shockby. I spent some time at Sparked, contracting here and there. Um, but the vision for Elcro before we kind of launched it with my partner Roman, a longtime friend of mine, we always wanted to do something ourselves, and we wanted to do it the way that we thought the hosting industry should look like. So that was kind of the driving force behind why we started Elcro, and that was before Lagless. Um, and then the idea for Lagless actually was born out of some internal discussions we had with the team, where like I mentioned earlier, we saw gaps, and we still see gaps. And there's a lot of people that overpromise and don't deliver what they say they're going to promise, or they just spend their entire budgets on just marketing, getting more signups, but they're not really working on retention or the service itself that they provide. And we
Yeah.
wanted to fill that gap, and we wanted to fill that gap without any hidden gimmicks, I guess. Just straightforward, here's what you're paying for. It's a low cost. It's something we're able to do at a low cost because of Velcro. So because we already have the infrastructure. Um, and that's a question I got asked a lot. Is like, how are you offering that low of a price? You don't see that very often, but
No.
because of the Velcro backbone, we can't, because we're just focusing on the hardware and the software. The network and infrastructure is already taken care of.
Yeah. Because you already have the hardware installed. You're installing new hardware with all the. Because it's not like Outro doesn't have any customers as well, right?
No, we just finished an acquisition of another VPS company a couple months ago, which kind of doubled our size overnight. So there was definitely some growing pains there that we identified very quickly. But we were already in the position to kind of keep scaling as we went.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Most of these newer hosts are from a position of they start in the bedroom. Maybe as a summer host, you can always start as a summer host and evolve into something big. I talked with Mitch
Hmm
from Shockby, who you might know.
Yes.
Yeah, you do. About like him starting as a summer host in his own bedroom and then growing into Shockbite. I think Electro and by extension Lagless has a very strong start, especially offering only like for $8, the performance that you get is not bad at all. Compared to Lilypad, who does some shady marketing with their I don't know if you have seen it. I'll put it up because like I'm gonna email them that this is not okay. They say that Shockbyte uses Xeon E5s for all their servers, which has not been the case for the last 4 years. So I don't know
Mm,
why they keep that up. I'm very angry, but
mm.
I'm quick to anger when it comes to that stuff. You might have noticed. I hate false advertising. That's why I like lagless. Again, there's no false advertising. There are some flaws, but you can look past that. Your guys are pretty new.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, we're gonna see bugs, and that's where we rely heavily on people like you, our consumers, that use this day in and day out to tell us, hey, you got something wrong there, but we do our best to fix it in a very short period of time so that you're satisfied as a client.
I think my server admin who runs the modded server was like, "Yeah, this is a more prettier panel than the previous one." And then he saw the splitter feature and he asked me what it is, which is why I asked you. And then he nerdgasmed for the last like I think 2 days after that. I was like, "Oh, dude, we can do this and we can do that and we can
Yeah.
split up everything." And like, yeah, chill, dude. Just make it first and then tell me what we can do.
Yeah, it's a convenient little thing. It avoids having to buy multiple plans if you're trying to do like a little network. You can do it all within whatever allotment you already got.
Yeah, you can literally just give one. Even with the 4 GB plan, you can give 1 GB, or even the proxy doesn't even need that much, like 500
No, no.
megabytes. Give it to the
Yeah.
proxy. Put Geyser on there, Authenticator on there. You're on. You have crossplay.
Yep.
It's
Absolutely.
awesome. Maybe another question because this is question 6, but I'm gonna move it up a little bit because it flows better. You're part
Sure.
of the Admincraft certification process. You're one of the people who judges them, right? Um,
Yes, I am.
so Judge Judy, why don't you explain how that goes in its work and
Yeah. So the AdminCraft Verified Service Provider program it's an awesome thing that I'm a huge fan of. It's I think of it as like a different type of version of like the BBB
yeah,
accreditation system.
yeah,
Where it's a community revolving around Minecraft and has a lot of really knowledgeable folks in it that have been in the industry for years, who make up the council, and hosts that want to market to an audience that is looking for good, robust service. They have to get all their little nooks and crannies checked, and that's what me and the other folks on the council do. So a host will apply, they'll give us their information, and then we'll go and see where we can find the holes. And we don't just do it in like a malicious
no,
manner,
no,
which it could be perceived as such, but it's definitely not malicious. It's in the hope that we help them identify any problems so that should they choose to reapply, they can go back and correct whatever we find. And that's another platform that they can market their service to, and something AdminCraft can rightfully say, hey, we tested this, we checked everything. Uh, the members of this community that look at this, you guys should be safe purchasing from them because they went through this extensive review. Um, and there's a lot of rules for us as review council members. Um, a big one is we try very hard to remove bias from the equation because it's no secret that a lot of us are also other host owners that are looking at your host. So, for instance, if someone was to be using my services on Elcro to power their infrastructure, they would disclose that, hey, they have a business relationship with me, and I would just take a step back. I
okay.
wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't give any comments because that introduces bias into a process that's very objective. But I mean, there's not too much else to it. It's very, it's simple if you look at it from a high level, but it works very well, and it helps identify any security concerns with ports being open that shouldn't be open, things like that. And it helps as giving feedback to people that want to get into the hosting world and make sure they're doing it right.
Yeah, because that was one of my questions you mentioned. Because when we first started talking, you mentioned that you were AdminCraft certified, and then you said you were on the review council, and I was like, okay, they might have a system of like removing bias.
Mhm.
When you went through that application, did you just do the application and then took a back seat, or were you?
So yeah, when I applied for my company, I wasn't yet a part of the review council,
Okay.
so I didn't even, I didn't see any discussions about my host other than what was asked of me during the process. I only joined the review council maybe a few weeks after we got approved. Um, the program was fairly new at the time,
Yeah.
and honestly, I just hadn't gotten around to submitting the application to it yet. So it kind of worked out that way. So I didn't really have to, remove myself from anywhere, and I just went through the process first, saw how it worked, and then I became a part of it afterwards.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, because again, I've been shilling it like mad with every host that comes either in my Discord, in my comments, or even like hosts I interview. There, I think I've had 3 or 4 bigger hosts, and I've always said like, yeah, you should get admin craft certified because that would solidify that standard. Because I really believe that that is a good way of um of getting a seal of approval from industry veterans. Because I think the seal can go way further than just being able to sell in admincraft
Hmm.
because it can be a if people know what it is, how it's done, how it's reviewed. I think that could be another step of, hey, we're solid. Because there's
Yep.
another host that I just discovered, which I've sent to you, but I'm not gonna name here, who does some really shady shit. And if everybody was using the admincraft certification system, I think that would be weeded out immediately.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a very new system, so I'm excited to see how it grows as more people hear about it, more people come and apply, and just to see where it can go. I think Rhythmatic over at AdminCraft, he started an awesome thing, and it should benefit the consumers greatly, especially once there's a bigger handful of hosts in there.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, let's talk about the business relationship we have and the biases when it comes to that, right? Because again, the reason I have you here is not only because I wanted to hear Lagla's story told and outro as well, but mainly I do more journalistic stuff. So when I do sponsors, I always have to keep in mind that, hey, you can't say anything about this because if a sponsor comes up and says you can't say anything bad, then I'm not gonna take it, right?
Hmm.
But maybe first, like, why did you decide to come on and sponsor this channel or well the other
Yeah.
channel?
No, absolutely. I mean, before I even reached out to you, I mean, I was a very avid viewer of your content. I've always found it interesting. The way you did your videos, editing, flow of information was great. Um, but aside from the mutual benefit that we both get, it was the authenticity that we see from you and your videos. The love for the game, the love for building your community and helping out. We we don't want anything to seem forced. Like whenever we first talked, I made it clear to you, like, hey, this is what we offer. If this is something that you think is cool or interesting, we'd love to, sponsor, give you a slice of it, have you try it out. And in return, we just get, organic mentions or nothing really else. There's no pressure for you to recommend us. Uh, there's no fake promotions.
Yeah,
It's all based on the authenticity. We want that to, that's a focus for us for not only you. We have a few other partners that we work with, and that's the same principle that gets stretched across everyone
yeah.
and everyone that we contact about this.
That's an awesome thing because that allows me to just do the same deal with the test sheets because at the moment you're not first because there are other hosts that gives more
Hmm.
cores and that's what their CPS test is all about, the core, right?
Yep.
It's a flaws test. Uh, but that allows me to still put you in there and not risk getting into trouble because hey, this is still a good value. You still get it's about the value. The value is still very great, and you can support what I do by supporting them, which is what I always wanted. Because I ended the agreement with GG servers not on bad terms, but I think I just had some well, not information, but I was a little bit. I saw better host, and I was like, I can get well better. I need to be careful here because again, I don't have anything against GG servers. They were very kind, they were very nice, but I saw people who do what I wanted more. And when you sent me lagless, I immediately saw that. I saw cores, I saw what CPU is being used, the amount of RAM, the DDoS protection on that. No tiers, which is the most stupid stiff. No slot recommendations, which is the most absolute abhorrent thing I've ever seen. No limitations on what you can use, because there's some hosts you need to buy a 6 GB server to even install Fabric. And maybe if PebbleCast, if you're watching, maybe no monthly costs for a one-time install. That was also the one that I saw. Was like, no, not doing that. Because yeah, it's I could still like, for example, if I have interviewed Mitch from Shockbite, right? If I make a video on that on the main channel, that's not gonna jeopardize the business relationship that we have, right?
Mm-mm.
That's why I wanted to show that like there's no,
Yeah.
you don't have a say in what I say. Even if I
Nope.
say like, hey, maybe this one's better, but you can use this to support me, which I've always done.
Yeah, and that's all we ask. We want to keep the process simple. Uh, Anything else I feel like would be invasive to what you are already doing and what you already established.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that because I have had some people who were trying to win me over, but they seemed very like, you can only mention that we're the best and stuff. Because there is one comment, and he was wrong, but it's still ingrained in my mind because that's my biggest fear. There was one comment saying like, "Oh, you're just shilling GG servers because you're affiliated." I'm like, no, check the spreadsheet. There are literally 5 other hosts above them. The only thing that I did different was I tested both of them, the premium and the budget ones, because people requested it and because it's a fair thing to do. If I'm gonna say like you get to a 10, I think it's 10% off or 20% off at whatever server you get. And he immediately responded with, "No, you're lying. The first one on the list is your host." Blah blah, which was absolute horseshit. But that's so ingrained in my mind that I never want to ever have that situation be genuine, because that would
Yeah.
totally just jeopardize what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, with that all out of the way, I do want to say thank you, because at the moment my girlfriend has no idea that I'm going to buy that Slanesh box. I think in 2 days, and she's gonna be like, "What the fuck? Where did this come from?" I'm like, "Don't you worry about it, baby."
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, you're feeding my cat and you're feeding my addictions. Addictions being plastic.
Perfect.
Maybe another question for like you to round this off, right? You're a new host. You're breaking into a saturated market. What are the difficulties that you experience?
Ooh, you know, I'd say probably the biggest thing that we face or anyone in our position would face is, the public trust. The, when you look at the hosting world, the field is very crowded, and there are countless of brands that are 20 times their size that can blow us out of the water completely with what they can spend on their marketing budgets. So for us, it's all about partnerships like the one me and you have, the
Yeah,
ones we have with our other creators and our clients. Aside from that, as long as we provide that real service, we believe that the word of mouth will eventually get to where it needs to go, and then we'll grow that way. But day in and day out, we have to prove to our consumers and to the public that looks at us that we provide a real good service. There's nothing sketchy about it, and it's a hard thing to do, especially when you're advertising high-end Ryzens at the price we're advertising. People look at you like, I don't know about that one, Chief, but it's very real, and we just need to prove that to everyone, and that's what we work on doing day in and day out.
usually it comes with the, oh, they're probably putting like 16 servers on one core or something, but that's not
No,
that's
no.
not
We don't. We we don't have dedicated cores because it's not feasible to do in their setup.
Yep.
But we make it a point not to stretch the machines past what they're supposed to be doing, like what they're made for. That's the point where you start to see your CPS scores fall.
Yeah.
Your threads are busy, and things aren't working as well as they should. So we monitor that very carefully on our side to make sure everything is within proper limits
Yeah.
and it doesn't affect the performance. 'Cause that's important. I mean, I can give you a 9950X, but I can cram it beyond belief, and it's going to act like a Xeon.
Yeah.
But
Basically.
monitoring its usage and making sure everything is within the bounds that you set, you'll see that performance that we say we give you.
Yeah, totally. Because like again, the CPS test that I perform is still there's a few flaws, and one of the flaws is how busy the node is and how over allocated the node is. On nodes with heavy over allocation, you'll see that the CPS test just tanks immediately.
Mm.
But I think we had some I think I was with you guys where I tested around a bit with different values of CPU and see what that did
Yeah.
for the test, which again has just shown me how absolutely influenceable that test is by just small parameters.
Yeah.
But as long as you don't over allocate, um,
No, that's the kind of bottom line of it, is just to making sure everything, because hardware has its capacity.
yeah,
Blow it out of the capacity, you're going to see performance issues and node failures really.
yeah,
And node failures is, for people that own their own hardware, that's a headache and a half. I do not wish it on anyone. So we try to avoid that at all costs.
you want to fly to Dallas for 2 hours because one fucker forgot to put an extra zero in there.
It's happened before. It's happened before.
Uh, I honestly commend owning your own hardware because I think you also install it yourself or you have couriers do it, right?
It depends. I live up in Pennsylvania, which is quite a bit of a distance between Texas and us, and obviously Germany's on the other side of the pond, so I can't really go there as often. But I do try to make it a point to go down at least once a month, if not every other month. Really depends on what kind of projects we have going on. Usually, whenever I go down, the size of the list of things to do is longer than you could believe, and I
Yeah.
end up spending like 20 hours at the data center. But other than that, I'll build the hardware in my office here at home. I'll send it down to the data center, and we have techs on contract there that will go and do the install.
Okay. Yeah. Still, the fact that you fly down to a data center, I don't think any host that isn't already a big name does that unless they already have the position where they also have it from you, where they come from the VPS world and then
Mm.
now have this. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I have, unless you have another topic you want to quickly throw in there for good measure. I think that's about it.
No, I don't got anything else. You covered a lot of the stuff we wanted to chat about, so I
Yeah.
appreciate the invite on here.
No worries. And if you ever do come to Germany, which is not where I live but close, let me know and I'll give you some real beer because those Germans are only brew pisswater.
Oh, okay. Noted.
I'm gonna get pitchforks up my ass. Anyway,